Hey y'all, welcome to another edition of I Died Near-Death Experiences. I'm sorry I've been absent for a couple of months. I've been trying to recover from open heart surgery. Yeah, I almost died. I had a couple of supernatural experiences with that, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Since I did have another near-death experience and went through this surgery, I thought maybe I should tell you the big story. So here goes. Are you all comfortable? Got a beverage? Diet Dr. Pepper here is my choice during the summer. I know, it's not healthy. Gotta have some vices, right? I cuss and I drink soda. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to 2003. And to give you a little bit of background, I've had GI problems since I was very, very small. The 60s and 70s. And when I would just spend hours in the bathroom. They diagnosed me with Crohn's disease, and it would come in waves, okay? So I spent decades with this diagnosis and having to use the bathroom too frequently. Got so if we went anywhere, I knew every single bathroom between the house and wherever we're going. So that's how bad it was. So when I got married in 1980, by the way, my wedding anniversary is the 4th of September, so it's coming up next week. The first 6 months we were married, we were trying to live on one graduate student stipend, which is pretty small, so our diet became largely vegetarian out of necessity. And when my husband Charles would go off to school in the morning, we lived in a little town called Lochapoka, Alabama, in a duplex on a dirt road underneath a fishing pond. When I say underneath, it was higher than we were. We're kind of on the back side of the dam. And because I was an excellent shot, I was on the varsity rifle team at Auburn University. And the Dean of Agriculture, who owned like 500 acres across the dirt road from us, gave me permission to hunt and fish on this property. Charles would head to school. I'd grab my rifle or my fishing pole and head to the woods. And that was the only source of meat or protein that we had. And I tell you right now, I don't ever want to see another squirrel on my plate. I got kind of creative with it. Squirrel, rabbit, quail, pheasant. Those of you who hunt will say, wow, that's pretty good. You know, I didn't shoot something every day. You know, it was, what I could find. But during that 6 or 8 months that I spent as a forced quasi-vegetarian, I didn't have any stomach problems. So when we were able to buy our first home, I was able to find employment finally, and Charles took a job with research data analysis in the College of Agriculture as a statistician while he worked on his master's in operations research. I also found a job in the College of Agriculture as a lab tech. And we bought our first house. It wasn't much. It was a 3-bedroom, 900 square foot farmhouse that was constructed sometime in the late 1800s on 3 acres of land, paid $22,000 for it. And to celebrate, I went out and I bought a big old pork roast. Roasted it, sat down to eat it, took a few mouthfuls, and Charlie thought he was going to have to take me to the ER because I basically went into shock with an allergic reaction. But he couldn't get me out of the bathroom to take me to the hospital. I kind of muscled through it and ended up crawling on my hands and knees into bed. So from that point on, for the next few months, we noticed I would have an attack like that, a full-blown Crohn's attack, anytime I was exposed to pig, whether it's bacon fat or bacon or whatever. So obviously my problem all my life was a food allergy. Well, I'd spent 20 some odd years basically destroying my colon, right? So fast forward to 2003, and by then I had developed diabetes, and my endocrinologist was excited because I had lost a lot of weight, and I was down to near my high school weight and ready to go off all medication for the diabetes. I was on Glucontrol, I think was the name of the tablet, but my sugars were normal. My A1C was a little high, so I think it was like a 6, which isn't really that bad. But the endocrinologist was eager to try 2 new tablets that were on the market, and that was metformin and Actos. Actos can cause edema, which is water retention. And the metformin can cause an upset stomach. Well, I hadn't really had a flare-up with the Crohn's, which by this time I was going to get what I call a peekabooty, which colonoscopy about every couple of years, and they changed my diagnosis to ulcerative colitis, set off by food allergies, right? So, Bamsy the dog is playing with his squeaky toy. So I got put on metformin, and I reacted so badly to it that I'd literally eat something and then it would go right through me. And I called the doctor and I said, look, this is setting off my ulcerative colitis. I don't think I can take it. And he said, well, sometimes you have to force your body to accept a medication. So he doubled my dosage, and I started having what I thought were hemorrhoids acting up. Now, if you've ever had hemorrhoid pain or rectal pain, you know what that's like. And I was sitting in a hot bath. It got to be every 2 hours. And I decided to take my temperature, and it was like 103. So I said to Charlie, take me to the emergency room. There's something going on here that's more than a sore hemorrhoid. So in the ER, I was chastised and told that I had rectal abscesses. And if this is too much information for you, you may want to just shut me off and go somewhere else. But I had no idea you could get abscesses in your rectum. There's glands up through your rectum that lubricate stuff to help it move out. And I was asked, why did I wait so long? These things can kill you. So if you've got that problem, don't wait like I did thinking it'll clear up. Okay? And that's Brucey the cat. What are you saying? No. No. Anyhow, they took me in for emergency surgery, and on my left side they went in and they cleared out the rectal abscesses. And then 2 days later, my other side abscess, it didn't want to be left out, I guess. So I was back in emergency surgery. And I don't know if you're aware of when they do that type of surgery, they bend you over a table, they tape your eyes shut, so if your eyes open during surgery, you don't panic looking around at people's feet or whatever. But they tape my eyes shut and put my butt up in the air, and we're doing their thing. And the Actos reacted to the anesthesia and shut my heart off. So I was flatlined, they tell me, for close to 3 minutes before they noticed that I had flatlined. And what I felt, what happened next, was life-changing for me. And I hope this story, while it's gross and disturbing, will give you some insights into what happens when you die. So I was totally flatlined, okay? And I felt an embrace. I felt arms around me. I felt lifted up. And I was up at the corner of the room looking down at my body in this precarious position, right? But I could see what was going on. And I guess he was an anesthesiologist, the person in charge of breathing, was fighting with two of the nurses on whose fault it was that I had flatlined and no one had noticed. I hope you enjoy the joyous sounds of canines here at a squeaky toy. So they were arguing on whose fault it was that I had flatlined. And at that point I was lifted up a little bit more and I felt arms around me, and I've never felt more loved and embraced and comforted in my life. And I was turned and I was shown a horizon. If you've ever been in a planetarium and you could sit and watch the stars go around the dome, that's what I was shown. And I was lifted up into that, and there was a bright light in one direction. And I said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. My mother, who was a widow, her health was failing, and I'm an only child. And I said to God, I knew it was God that had me in his arms. I said, I can't leave my mother. There's no one to take care of her. My husband had just come home from overseas. He was working with the military. And we had separated in our marriage, and he had just come home. And we were trying to patch things up, and I said, I can't leave until my relationship with my husband is healed. So that there's too many people needing me. And I felt the embrace tighten a little bit more. And I was told, okay, you're going to go back. I'm going to give you another chance. Only because you asked on behalf of other people, not yourself. You're going to go home. But there's something I want to show you before you go back. And he turned and told me to look down. And I looked down, and it looked like a waterfall underneath me, but it was molten lava. And he goes, you don't want to end up there, you need to straighten up. You know what you've been doing wrong, you need to straighten up. So I said, okay, well that's pretty clear. So what do I need to do to make things right with you, God? And that's when he says, what do you feel right now? What do you feel? And what it felt like is I had entered a huge energy bank. I was surrounded by just high energy frequencies. And I said, other than your embrace, I feel high levels of energy. And he says, that's life force. Those who die, that's the life force that comes back to me. And I said, so do you take the life force that's coming back and, for lack of a better term, recycle it into other life forms? And he said, most definitely. And what I want you to know is all life on this planet is connected. Plants, animals, humans, even the soil, anything that's alive is connected. I asked your species to take care of my creation, and not very many people are listening. Please know that you're all connected, and respect that, and respect life. Now go and take care of your people. So I was gently lowered into my body. Literally, I felt like I was lowered into my body. By this time, I was belly up, and they were zapping me with the paddles. The anesthesiologist was slapping me in the face, saying, breathe, Lisa. Breathe. Breathe, Lisa. I started breathing, and they stepped back, and they went back to arguing on whose fault it was while they were tending to me that I had flatlined. Well, a few minutes later, I flatlined again. And that time I was only gone like a minute and a half or so, maybe 2 minutes. And again, I felt picked up, embraced, and I'm up at the corner of the room watching what's going on. And God says to me, don't worry, you're going back. They just need to zap you again. Okay, so he starts to show me the horizon, and I said, God, if you're all-knowing, then you know I'm afraid of heights. So showing me the horizon scares me more than it comforts me. And I literally felt him laugh. He appreciated the sense of humor. And boom, I was back in my body. That anesthesiologist was slapping me again. Lisa, Lisa, breathe, breathe, and I'll buy you some ice cream. And my eyes were still taped shut, but I had seen him from up there, and I knew his heritage was India, even though he had no accent. I knew he was from India. So without my eyes being open, and he said, I'll buy you some ice cream, I said, no, kulfi. I want kulfi. And he goes, you want coffee? I said, no, kulfi. And he paused, because he knew I couldn't see him. I didn't meet him before I went under. Kulfi is Indian ice cream. So how did I know that? I don't know how I knew that. So one of the conversations I had with God before the first time He put me back was, how do I know this is real and not just brain electricity? And God says, okay, let me show you something else. So He took me to the waiting room where my husband was sitting reading a Time magazine. And I went behind him and looked over his shoulder, and it was a black and white image of a bombed out city in Afghanistan that's known as Kabul, the capital. So he was reading an article on Kabul. Later, when I was in ICU and they got me there and he came in to see me, and he was like, this surgery should only have taken a few minutes. Where is she? It took them so long to revive me and stabilize me before they went and told him of their mistake. Of course, they didn't admit to a mistake, but that's the medical profession. So he came into my ICU room to see me, and I told him I had one of those out-of-body experiences, and he just kind of laughed, and I said, for proof, God took me to your side, and I looked over your shoulder, and you were reading a Time magazine about the bombing of Kabul. He looked at me, he went really pale, went to his knees and started praying. How could I know that if I wasn't shown by the Almighty? Well, they finally moved me to a private room, and I was there like 21 days on a heart monitor. They put me on insulin. Now remember, going into this, I was about to not need any medication whatsoever. But they put me on insulin to stabilize, and they said, don't worry, we'll wean you off of it. They never did. And I had random doctors walking in saying, you had one of those experiences, didn't you? And wanting to know what my experience was. The Indian gentleman came in and said, how did you know I was from India, and how do you know what kulfi is? Do you know where I can get some? But one thing they had in common, there were Hindus, Jews, Christians, and Muslims that came to see me, is they all started praying at my bedside. And their prayers probably helped, but they treated me like I was some sort of, I don't know, celebrity, wanting to touch me and praying. So I guess what my message is for the rest of us out here is the fact that God told me, doesn't matter what religion you call yourself, doesn't matter what path you choose to the Almighty, as long as you're on the straight path and you're not sinning, as long as you are taking care of His creation. Doesn't matter what you call yourself, Christian, Jew, Hindu, Muslim. What matters is, how are you living? How are you treating others? So my message to you all is, live right. Do well by your neighbor, the stranger at your border, the stranger in the marketplace. Do right for the creatures. Don't kill an animal unless you're going to eat it. Don't waste any of it. Treat animals ethically. Don't cut the trees down. Don't destroy habitat. Don't poison the earth. Live gently. Be good to each other. And you'll get where you want to be. My secondary message to all of you is, don't fear death. It didn't hurt. In fact, it took all my pain away. I have never felt so comforted, so loved, warmly embraced, a part of something bigger than just me. So that's my message on my near-death experience. I've had others. I've had some kind of funny things happen, and I'll share those at another time. So what do you think of my story? Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, make a comment. This is a premiere. Ask questions, or join me for a live conversation. I'll go into a live broadcast. I'm going to allow people who may have similar experiences to come up on the panel with me, if I can get someone brave enough. In the past, I've had people talking to me in private saying they don't want to come up on the panel with me because you're afraid that people will think you're crazy. But you know what? People who have shared their near-death experience with me have almost identical stories. So how can so many people from all ethnicities and all nationalities share the same death experience? Don't poo-poo it. It's real. God is real. That took any doubt I may have had, any shadow in my mind that there is a God, away. God is real. God has no gender. God created us. When you die, you get recycled. Parts of you do. So as far as the Hindu concept of reincarnation goes, they are probably the closest to understanding the Godhead and how things work. But again, it doesn't matter what you call yourself, as long as you're living right. Okay? So next time you see a dead animal in the road or see someone beating their dog or whatever, you know to stop it, right? You know to pray for that animal. So that's my message. Don't fear death. Don't run toward it. Don't fear it. Tell everyone that you love them every day. Because you never know when all that's going to end. Also, when you die, you can visit your loved ones. Remember the article on Kabul that I saw my husband reading? That was real, folks. That was real. So, that's my message to you all. I hope it gives you some hope. I hope it gives you some understanding. I hope it gives you comfort. So until next time, be well. Bye.